I love this shirt. Hi everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Seamus and 2 years ago I gave up my career in marketing and video production to chase my dreams of traveling the world and starting my own travel video series, Gay Astray. One of the most highly viewed and best engaged videos on my channel is from years ago when I was studying television production. And as there are so many comments still coming on that video, I thought that I could talk a little bit more and make a video about how studying a degree in television production or film can open doors for you and your career. Or, as is my case, how your dream job in your favourite TV show can start off as something so exciting but turn out to be quite a little bit more stressful and demanding than you might have thought. Working on season 6 of Game of Thrones to this day is still my #1 accomplishment in life. I'm going to be working on Game of Thrones season 6 as soon as I get back from Kenya. So I actually have a little ID card with my name and my photograph on it. I'm ready to talk about how I came to work on Game of Thrones and how a dream of mine literally came true before my very eyes. You may be wondering why I'm talking about this now, years after it happened and after Game of Thrones is finished and nobody's really talking about it anymore. The reason for this video is more to talk about how it all unfolded, how it feels to have something that you've dreamt of for so long come true, because it's something that brings me a lot of joy to remember. I have always said that I want my YouTube channel to help people to be positive, help people to smile, help people to set goals, and what better way to do that than to talk about the biggest achievement that I've ever experienced. Game of Thrones is the biggest show in the world. We all know that. It's one of those shows that had almost everyone hooked all the way through until the last season. So this story takes place during my second year of university. I was studying at Bournemouth University and I was studying TV production. But for the purposes of the story and of the video, I want to take it back a few years before I started university, when this goal or dream really started. I became a die-hard fan of Game of Thrones after watching the first 3 seasons, and I binged watched it in like 3 days. I'm sure if you've seen Game of Thrones you can totally relate to this because it's so addictive. It very quickly became my favourite show ever. I was obsessed. I live 2 hours out of Belfast, and Belfast is where Game of Thrones was primarily filmed at the Titanic Studios. And at this point I was like 17 and I had always known that I really wanted a career in film or TV. That was the industry that I wanted to be in. And around this time I was already looking at a degree in TV production or media or film. So upon realising that Game of Thrones, the best show I'd ever seen, was filmed on my doorstep in Northern Ireland, I had to get my foot in the door somehow. I needed to be part of this amazing series. I was so naive in thinking that I could just swan up to the studios with my CV, which was absolutely terrible at the time. I had like no job experience in the industry whatsoever. I just had fire under my ass that no one could stop me from getting this job. No one could stop me from being part of this show. So that summer I decided to take a trip to Belfast, find the Titanic Studios with my CV packed in my bag, walked to the Titanic Studios, saw that there was, you know, all of the vans, all of the props and the extras, costumes, and I could see the studios, and I was right outside. I was on the other side of the fence just looking in like this, and I knew that I had to get on the other side of that fence somehow. I remember seeing, I guess they were filming season 4 at this time, and I remember seeing a lady outside one of the tents painting a severed head. And I was like, okay, this woman can help me. So I screamed and yelled and asked her, how can I get a job here? How can I work here? And she very kindly directed me to this red brick building across the road, which I soon discovered was the production offices for Game of Thrones. And so I minced over there with all of the hope in the world, thinking that I could bump into someone that could give me a job, even cleaning the toilets, cleaning the floor. When I got to the production offices, I was just stopped by a security guard because obviously I didn't have the security tag. I didn't work there. Anyone walking in off the street is not welcome. So I was stopped and rejected. So I was defeated and I went home feeling very rejected and worried that this dream of mine was not going to unfold. It's so embarrassing to think of what I must have looked like rocking up to that production office with nothing, no experience. I was 17, I was so naive, but I was so desperate as well, which I think worked out in my favor. So I went back home and instantly got into plotting my return to the studios the next year and, you know, preparing my grand plan for how I was going to infiltrate the set and get that job. And you know, I actually started to think about how I could improve my opportunity, which was to do as much work experience as I could possibly to network and build contacts in the industry in Northern Ireland to make my CV as good as it possibly could be and find out as much as I could about the show, about the other people who work on the show. And I even remember watching the end credits of Game of Thrones, writing down all the names of the trainee runners that were on the show, because that's the job that I knew that I could do. That's the job that I had my eye on. And I found them on LinkedIn, found them on Facebook, and would message them and ask them, how did you get this job? I really want to work on Game of Thrones. Can you hook me up with a job? Don't recommend doing that either. It didn't work for me at all. I got no responses. It was all I could think about. And looking back at that time, I had this drive and this dedication to make something happen. I mean, this goes beyond working on a show or working anything. I had this vision for my life that was just not gonna fail. There was nothing that was gonna stop me. I almost miss being that person. I almost miss knowing exactly what I want to achieve and going at it full force, because it's kind of fun. And when you have that much passion for it and you have that mentality that you just cannot be stopped until you achieve it, it doesn't matter how much you embarrass yourself, it doesn't matter how much people scoff at you. Okay, so the next part of the story is that months have passed by since I went to the studios and got rejected, and I realised I'm starting university now in September. I've been accepted to Bournemouth. I'm going to start my TV production degree, first year, new adventures, going to be amazing, and I forget all about Game of Thrones. So the first year of university goes really well, make some amazing friends, and I get even more passionate about getting a job in film and TV. So the course finishes in May or June, and I head home back to Northern Ireland, and I see that Game of Thrones has listed their job online, and they put out a crew call every year looking for people to work in the sound department, camera department, prosthetics, art department, costume, runners, which is what I wanted to do. So I send off my application. I believe so much in the power of the law of attraction and visualizing your dream and taking action and manifesting what it is that you really want. And I'm wondering, how could this go so wrong? How has this not happened for me yet? Because I've put so much effort into getting this job. So I did what I thought would work, and I jumped on the bus up to Belfast and made my way to the studios again, this time armed with a better CV, more work experience, and a few lines that I've rehearsed so that I can get past the security guard. I get to the production offices and I'm trying to work up the courage to go inside. A van pulls up to the production offices and the security guard comes out and they start unloading all these radios, which are for the crew. And I instinctively go over and start helping the security guard to take the boxes off the lorry and into the office. And he starts to wonder who I am, and I say, I don't work here, but I was hoping that I could get your advice on something. Could you maybe help me, point me in the right direction of who to speak to? Because I'm really desperate to work on this show. It's been a dream of mine for years, blah, 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 blah. And the security guard is very friendly. He actually gives me the card of the lady who's responsible for the hiring of the trainees, which is the department that I really wanted to work in. The bottom job that you can do on a production like that. So I was so excited. I finally had my foot in the door. I finally had made some progress and everything was like lined up. I just had to email this person and they would get me on the show. At least that's what I believed. So I go back home and I'm feeling great, but still no job on Game of Thrones. So a few weeks later I get offered a temp job in Belfast and I accept it because I need to make some money. So it's the summer holidays. I decide what else would I be doing with my summer holidays. So I moved to Belfast and I work in a call centre, and when I rock up to the call centre for my first day at work, it is directly across the river from the Titanic Studios where they filmed Game of Thrones. I'm so close. I can see it in my mind now. Every time I would have a break during that call centre job, I would go outside and stand with my cup of instant coffee from the machine and I would just stare at the studios and dream of being there and like tell myself, this time next year you will be there. This was when they were filming season 5. So my time in Belfast ended. It was time to go back to university, this time for second year. So I moved back to Bournemouth and this is when I really started to focus my efforts optimizing myself for this and getting as much work experience as I could in the industry, learning as much as I could about the roles, and I kind of just pepped myself up and made my CV even better, even though most of it was just bullshit. So second year of university came and ended, and on the last day of university I get this call from a TV show in Liverpool and they say, hi there, we've got your CV, would you like to come and work on our show? And I was like, hell yes, a real job in TV that's not just unpaid work experience. I would love it. So I'm like, this is amazing. Okay, Game of Thrones might not be happening, but I've got a job in TV on a show that I watch. It was Hollyoaks. And so I moved to Liverpool. A few days later, I packed my bags up and I'm off to Liverpool and start my job as a runner on Hollyoaks. And that was amazing. 2 weeks into Hollyoaks, I get a call from Game of Thrones. We would like to offer you a trainee position on season 6. I will never forget getting that call. I think it was like the best moment of my life, and that moment really just showed me that I did that by myself. I manifested this opportunity, I drew this into me, I visualized this for so long. I literally lived and breathed this moment and finally it's here. There's no feeling in the world like that, and I knew that the law of attraction was a real thing when that happened to me. But the dream and the fantasy is one thing, but the reality is very different. The next part of the story is actually working on Game of Thrones, what I learned from it, how it was a very different ball game to what I imagined it would be. So I leave Liverpool, pack my bags up and fly home to Northern Ireland, and I moved to Belfast to start my job as a trainee assistant director on Game of Thrones. I was terrified. Even thinking back to it, I don't even know how I was feeling at that time. I remember my first day on set. The call time was 6 in the morning or something ridiculous. It was the middle of the night. The sun hadn't come up. I arrived onto set. It was cold, it was wet. I walked through the gates. I didn't get stopped by security. I told them my name and they had me on file. I was like, this is not happening right now. The first day on set was filmed in a location outside of Belfast where they filmed all of the wall scenes and all of the Castle Black scenes. So I was very, very excited to step on set because until you see it in real life, phenomenal. It felt like there is no CGI there, it's all real. The snow, the fires burning, the extras, like it's all real. I couldn't believe it. I was just mind blown. Spoiler alert, my first day on set on season 6 was the scene where Jon Snow comes back to life. As a huge mega fan of the show, I could not believe that I was there. Now, as someone who hadn't really had that much experience in the TV industry, I was really thrown in the deep end and was very stressed out throughout the whole time that I worked on Game of Thrones. And I worked on Game of Thrones for a month and a half. I didn't stay for the whole production because I was there during the summer holidays of my second year at uni, so I had to go back to university in September. So you have to like have the earpiece in with the radio and listen to all of the instructions coming from the set with the directors and all the art department, makeup department, cameramen. Everyone was talking to each other through these radios, and my job was to stay with the extras, take them onto the set when they were needed. Sometimes I would have to stand on set and tell people to be quiet when they called action, basically locking off areas of the set, which is, if you've worked in TV, it's kind of like the basics of a runner position. Getting people to set, taking them from set, making sure everyone was quiet when they were filming, and just maintaining some order around the set. And of course, making the teas and coffees. Yes, I made hundreds of teas and coffees while I worked on Game of Thrones, and that was one of the easier jobs, actually. One of the parts of the job that I enjoyed the most. I met D&D a couple of days into the job. Dan and Dave, the executive producers of Game of Thrones. I was like, oh my god, these guys who have created the show are right there. And I met most of the cast. I saw all of the cast, at least. Like, I was with them on set, but I didn't get to talk to a lot of them. Kit Harington was really friendly. Everyone was so excited whenever it was announced that Jon Snow was in fact alive. He wasn't dead like we thought at the end of season 5. The most starstruck moment for me was when I saw Brienne of Tarth. Gwendolyn Christie is like a goddess. That's the only way I can explain it. She towered above everyone. She had the armor on, she had the sword. I was like, this is the real deal. I'm really here. Every day was different. Every day presented its unique challenges to me. And looking back, I was fully out of my depth. I had no idea what I was doing, and I was definitely not experienced enough to be there. However, I feel like working on the biggest show in the world, such a massive budget production, such a huge pop culture hit, such as Game of Thrones, really made me see how things work in the TV industry. It really made me see how many people it takes to make something like this happen, and how every single person is there because they have the exact same amount of passion that I do. They love the show just as much as me. They're as big fans like the rest of us are. The extras that I worked with were obsessed with the show, and they were there because they absolutely live and breathe Game of Thrones, and that was such an amazing energy to be around. And I wish more workplaces that I've been in had that mentality. Sure, Game of Thrones is unique. It's like a freak accident that I ended up working on that show. Someone found my CV out of a pile, probably 1,000 CVs in that pile of people who wanted to work on the show as bad, or if not worse than I did. And somehow I came out on top and I got offered that job, and I was there. And I definitely messed up on more than one occasion. There was a few times where I thought that I was going to lose my job. I had never dealt with actors. I had never dealt with well-known directors or producers, and I had never had to listen to hundreds of voices going off in my ear every second. So it was a lot to take in for me. I was the bottom of the food chain. I was a trainee runner, assistant director they call it, but it's a runner. And so I knew that I could just get banished at any point. I was easily replaceable. So I had to make sure that I was on my A game every single day. And I'll tell you one thing, I was not prepared for the 15, 16 hour days, night shoots. Your body clock gets so messed up that I just became very stressed out and very anxious because everyone on set was feeling the same way. It wasn't necessarily because what we were doing was hard, it was just the hours, and it was just the fact that there was so many people to deal with and so many different things to set up. Food, oh my god, the food on Game of Thrones was like my favourite part of the whole thing, apart from the cool people that I got to meet and hang out with. and the sets and sitting on the Iron Throne. I mean, all of that was really cool, but the free food that we got for lunch by the catering company was out of this world. I loved it. I was in my element. We were getting fed so well. There was always a coffee truck nearby where you could get snacks and stuff if you were getting hungry. It was so much fun. And speaking of food, one of the bad experiences that I had on set was with Miss. One of the days it was my responsibility to fetch her lunch, which was absolutely fine, but I think for whatever reason there was only a salad or something. It was like a salad that I got her. I had no idea like what was going on, but I got shouted at, screamed at, door slammed in my face, and you know what? I was shook. I just thought, you know, you're getting paid like what, £1,500,000 per episode, £1 million per episode. I can't quite remember the wage, but I'm here on minimum wage getting the door slammed in my face by someone who's gonna be able to afford 3 cars and a mansion just by being here. Next day, it was totally cool. She was fine. That was just the one little blip that I had with a cast member, but it was very obvious that she was stressed out. She had a long day and I don't blame her for it whatsoever. It wasn't personal, it's just stress can be a real thing when you're working on a set. People are going to be running on stress and caffeine. And then there was one experience that I had where I accidentally mistook one of the lead actresses for an extra. And she had won Emmys or BAFTAs or something. Do you remember in season 6 when Arya was at the stage show and the pantomime where there was all the actors playing characters from Game of Thrones? It was her. And I was just like, yeah, you know, I'm in charge of the extras today. Lovely to meet you. We will come and get you when we need you. There's tea and coffee over there. Go help yourself. And then I resumed my duties inside the studio where I was needed to be. And then the assistant director comes over and says, where is, let's just call her Barbara. Where's Barbara? And I said, Barbara. He's like, yeah, brunette hair, tied up in a bun, nice cardigan. Have you seen her? I was like, yeah, she's with the extras in the extras tent, right? Getting herself a tea and coffee. Do you need her? He was like, that's one of the actresses. She's a leading role, she's not an extra. So I was like, oh shit, okay, so I've just mistook a pretty famous person who's probably getting paid a hell of a lot of money to be here for an extra. So I go over to her and I'm like, hey, I'm really sorry about the misunderstanding. Your tent is actually over here, your trailer is actually over here, and the director's asking for you. So yeah, let's just not talk about this. I'll get your tea and coffee, I'll get your food for you. You don't have to lift a finger because you're an actress, right? You're an actress, you don't have to do any of that. Little things like that get to me. I learned a lot about how TV shows are made and how there's definitely a class system there. There's like a pecking order, and if you're at the bottom of the pecking order, you stay there and you can get treated like shit, and it's fine because you're at the bottom of the pecking order. Basically like the punch bag for everyone else who's having a shitty day on set. And in a way, I feel like that's a very valuable experience to have, because the world will want to treat you like a punch bag at one point or another. And so to know that you're not the punch bag and that you're not the problem, it's everything else that's going on, but that sometimes people will take it out on you, is a very valuable skill to come away with. There was one particular instance where I was responsible for overseeing all of the extras doing their sword training for the Battle of the Bastards. And so we were in this massive big tent and everyone was hitting the wooden blah 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 swords. I couldn't hear the radio. The director was asking me to take all the extras to the archery training. I completely missed the message. Bear in mind the studio is huge. You have to walk for 15 minutes to get anywhere, so we all communicate by radio. That's why we have all the assistant directors dotted around to do all the jobs run in between. That's why we're called runners. Because I couldn't hear my radio, World War III broke out. Essentially, this is the day that I lost my job on Game of Thrones. They weren't happy with me because I had ignored the message on the radio, because I was doing what I was asked. I was overseeing the sword training, but I messed up. And so my manager at the time was really pissed off with me, obviously, understandably. I had fucked up and the schedule was now messed up. They were meant to be doing their archery. No one knew what was happening. I wasn't communicating. So I got banished from set. I got handed a credit card and told to go to the shop, which is like 20 minutes walk away, and buy cigarettes. And that was my glorious last day on set. Do I regret it? No. Did I have fun? Yes. Would I do it again? Yes, I definitely would. I still want to work in the TV industry. I still want a career in front of or behind the camera. I'm not entirely sure yet. That's why I'm doing this. But at that point in my life, I was definitely not ready for something like that. It was a lot to take in. And I have to send my love and props to anyone that works in film or TV who can relate to what I'm saying, because it's a very stressful environment to be in, and you guys are amazing. I mean, the hours that you put in and the passion and the work that goes into it is astounding beyond belief. Just really, really grateful that I had that experience. My dream came true and that I learned so much from it. And kind of the reason that I'm not working in the TV industry now, or that I didn't stick with my career and my goal of getting a job in TV, was because I realized that I don't want that life yet. I don't want to be the punch bag. I don't want to put myself through a lot of unnecessary stress just to get a credit on a TV show or a movie. Maybe one day I'll be ready for it. Maybe one day I'll build up enough resilience to take all that shit and become a boss and work my way up the ladder. But for now, I'm happy to just be traveling. I'm happy to be living my best life. And I think in a way that experience definitely propelled me on the track that I'm on now. And I think that it all goes back to the law of attraction and what you are manifesting into your life, because it all plays a part in sending you on your way, and everything that happens to you definitely happens for a reason. And so that is my story. I don't know how many people are going to watch this, or if it's gonna affect me negatively to be talking about my experiences working on Game of Thrones. I don't really care at the end of the day. I'm not working in that industry. Game of Thrones is over, so I can talk about this stuff. I did sign a non-disclosure agreement, but I didn't think about that until now. We'll just brush over that small detail. Hopefully I don't get sued. Just to show you that if you have a goal in mind, if you have a dream, if you have something that you want to achieve, that you feel in your stomach, like you feel your goosebumps on your arms when you think about how it's going to be, go for it. Go for it, because there's literally nothing in the universe that can stop you from achieving it, as long as you work your ass off for it. Anyway, you guys, I need to go. I need to get back to doing absolutely literally nothing. And yeah, I really hope that you liked this video. I hope this isn't going to end in me getting sued by anyone at Game of Thrones. That'll make an interesting video. So please remember to give my video a thumbs up and definitely hit the subscribe button. My goal this year is to hit 20,000 subscribers, and I will need all the help I can get. So please support my channel. Follow me on my social media. All the links are in the description box, and you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at GayAstray. I've just downloaded TikTok as well, so I'm excited to see how that goes. Thank you for joining me today. I hope that your isolation and lockdown period is going well, and that you're staying inspired whatever way you can. Have a great day, guys. Until next time, take care of yourself and see you in the next one. Bye.